very sensitive.
Apparently.
We're gonna go now.
Okay. Yes. Okay, call to order. Pledge of allegiance. Pledge of allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Recognition of visitors. Thank you for joining us. Awards recognition correspondence.
Just point out it was National Counselor Appreciation Week last week. We recognized our counselors, showed we had 7 counselors in all 3 buildings. For all the buildings in honor of them, and they took care of things in each of the buildings for them as well. So just a shout out to our counselors. It's really great having a team of counselors now. It's a single counselor. So much more for our kids now that, as well as the organizational stuff in all the buildings.
Thank you. Any adjustments to the agenda?
Yeah, none of that.
Okay. Public comment. So we do have a public comment from Angie Vanderhay. Will Oakland be proactive with the possible impending federal education changes coming?
Nothing like bringing a heavy question right off the top. Yes, I mean, we're proactive in the sense, I guess it depends on how you define proactive, but yes. So right now we are, I attend at 8 o'clock every Friday morning. I attend the legislative update with the Oregon legislature being in the long session right now. So our COSA people, Morgan Allen and Barasa. But those 2 people are tied in very heavily, and they are lead people in there from OSBA or from COSA, I mean, that are in there, and they give us updates and so I'd say there's probably 125 soups on there, and so the first half hour to 40 minutes gives us all of what's going on with the current bills within Oregon that are affecting education, and then the leader of COSA gets on, Krista Parent, and talks about what ODE and COSA are doing in interpreting what those federal changes are. So we spend another 15 to 20 minutes talking about that. What we've heard to this point is the executive orders sound great. They're good sound bites, but they really are, there's lots of steps that happen before they'll be made any changes. Most everybody freaked out really bad with the initial, we're going to freeze federal spending. That got overturned pretty quickly. In the big picture for Oakland, that's not a huge effect for us. We do get dollars in there, but we've claimed most of those already for the year. So we're not too concerned about what that's going to impact us on day to day for this year. What that's going to do next year, we're being very proactive in keeping a very close touch with how it's being interpreted in Oregon and how that's going to affect us. We have not taken time to start planning because I don't want to waste time planning for stuff that we don't know yet. So we're hearing it all. We're basically staying right on the edge of what Oregon interpretation is and how we need to respond to that. And then we're going to respond from there. So I do think from the financial piece, which in the end is the most important, all those students' rights is very important as well. But from the financial piece, we're going to be fine. Does that feel good about that as well?
We talked about it at our conference that I just got back from today, and the lead in between person for AASA, which is the American Advisory. So she's up there, and she's been meeting with a lot of the representatives that are actually on Federal Hill, and yes, this is the mandate that's come through, but we can't make changes right now. There could be a federal freeze, but obviously, like Mr. Clark said, it got overturned the next day. But there's not going to be a lot of change that's going to be able to happen like that. So by the time that it comes around, we'll be able to figure it out. We've always cautioned in our funding and budgeting for double in case that funding went away. And so we should be great in the long run.
We've claimed all that federal money that's in play for this year. So even if they were to redo the freeze part, we'd be okay for this year, and then we'd start looking at next year, in which we still have time as we're building our budget to manage around that. On the other piece, students' rights and those kind of things, I mean, really, if the feds keep pushing on that, Oregon will, I believe, is gonna dig in and fight hard because of its in direct conflict with some state laws, which in the end, they'll probably lose that. Oregon will, but they're gonna fight a long way. So I think before we ever see anything there, it'll be a ways down the road. So are we staying proactive? Yes, we're staying very in tune to what's going on and ready. We're ready. We're preparing to respond however we need to. So.
Thank you. Okay, consent agenda, approved meeting minutes from January 2025, and you all have the HR report on. Alex? Any discussion? All motion?
Move that we approve the consent agenda.
Yeah.
Next, HR report, sorry.
Same.
Motion seconded, and any further question, discussion? Say them all out. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Okay, motion carried. Okay, fiscal overview.
As you can see with the year-to-date activity forecast for our, at this moment, general fund, here, it looks fantastic. Our local revenues keep coming in, our property taxes keep coming in, trickling in. We've got the majority of it, but we'll see another spike come in March next month, because that's when another quarter is due when people make larger payments. Funding keeps going exactly kind of as we expected it. You'll see a dip in your purchase services from January for the supplies, not purchase services, as a negative. That is because that is the student body reimbursing the general fund for their use of the credit cards, because the credit card comes directly out of the general fund checking account, and then they have to reimburse. And we got a little ways away behind because we were trying to find receipts, but we have gotten that all squared away and packed up nicely, and we're happy about that. It's all up there and attached, and it's pretty. It makes me happy.
Do we have a timeline that we require to submit receipts?
Typically,
Like the
yes,
9:30?
but there was some that got lost in my email that kept going to my old email at ESD. And so once I finally logged into there, I was like, oh, look at all these receipts that they kept saying that they sent me, and I had no idea. So that was kind of my fault of, where are the receipts? I sent them to you. Well, you didn't, and they just kept forwarding them back to that. I'll be glad when that email goes away.
Okay, so it's not the process.
It's not the process, it's the systems coming to me.
I would just comment that it has been a process. Changing over to the purchasing cards has been huge. It has made life a lot better. The changeover has had some bumps along the way, but it's been much better. It's so much easier to manage things, and it puts so much less pressure on our office managers and our principals and our business managers. So the process has been bumpy in the changeover, but excellent.
Changes all forward.
See, that's why you just need to not change.
But you just said change is good, so right? There's always positive.
So our projected ending fund balance still looks fantastic. But is there any questions on it or the checks for January?
You answered the question on the negative. So. Okay. I don't have to make a motion, right? No?
Nope.
Okay, reports and discussions, student body report. Who wants to go first? Rock, paper, scissors?
So, good evening. My name is Hannah, as you know, and it's hard to believe that we're already halfway through the school and time is really flying by. Last week was Counselors Appreciation Week, where the high school shared their appreciation for all that Mrs. Walker Clark does for our school. And we also had a fun snow day, where Mr. Hill and the choir class made 2 snowmen in the courtyard by the gazebo. I'm not sure what their names were, but they were really funny. And this week is Valentine's Week with lots of kind words and encouragement in the air. Wrestling has been working extremely hard with full force and dedication. And this evening they have a meet at Pleasant Hill. Friday and Saturday is the district girls wrestling competition, which is in Cottage Grove. Basketball is slowly coming to an end, with both teams having very successful wins and have increased their skill sets for the next season. Yesterday, they played Gold Beach with both teams bringing home a win. Leadership is back at it and has been showing our schools some Valentine's love. Last week, we made, wrote, and signed a card which we hand-delivered to Mrs. Walker Clark. And this week, we cut out sweet tart hearts that we wrote the teacher and staff members' names on and put on their corresponding door. Oakland FFA had a very busy day today, with multiple members competing at District LDE's competition, which included prepared public speaking, creed speaking, job interview, extemporaneous public speaking, conduct of chapter meetings, and parliamentary procedure. And both our conduct and Parley Pro teams won second, and we have multiple members that will continue competing at sectionals in the next few weeks. Next week, Oakland FFA is celebrating National FFA Week with daily activities, community service, breakfast for the teachers, t-shirts, and an assembly. Tomorrow is our national honors. Our school's National Honor Society group is helping with their second biannual blood drive and donation with the Red Cross. At our last blood drive, we have a record of 40 donations, which we hope to beat this time around. So if you get a chance, please stop by the high school gym tomorrow from 10 to 2 and help save lives. And for the month of February's after-school program, the theme is Agriculture and CDEs, which is run by Miss Ellis and multiple FFA members and officers. Last week, we created planters, and this week we are making boutonnieres and bouquets. Next week, we will have bunnies, chickens, sheep, and goats at the land lab. Furthermore, the high school is bustling with sports, FFA spirit, and a great new attitude towards the second semester. Thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Serenity George, and I'm secretary on the leadership team. Life at Lincoln is going right along. Sports and clubs have been doing well. The girls' basketball team only has 4 more games this season. We have a large wrestling team this year, and several wrestlers have been very successful at their meets. And the district meet is next week on the 18th. February is a big month for our leadership team. We've had our second spirit assembly, where we give some tips for success in the third quarter, celebrated our athletes, and introduced our new name for the next year, Oakland Middle School. Also, we have been selling Valentine's grams. The students could buy a crush soda for their crush for only $1, or they could send a card to someone special for 3 Lincoln bucks. All the Valentine's grams will be delivered tomorrow during 7th period. Next, we'll start planning for our annual Spring Olympics. Well, that's all for now. Thank you for having me. Have a great evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. 9.2 Principal Council reports, updates, and questions. If I'll have a chance to read those. You guys want to add anything onto that?
Just the note that Read Across America, the first week in March, we would like to read to the littles. It's fun. I don't share any of the photos, right? Keep those for
It is pretty fun. too.
posterity.
Pretty exciting.
I remember seeing that. Oh, no.
So that was not shared.
That wasn't
What's the Gaga pit, or I'm assuming I got that.
Oh, my stars, I had to research what that was.
I mean, when you guys were doing this.
So last year, the kids brought it up, and so on our last day of school, we always have the kind of like carnival, and the kids said, "Oh, we need one." And so I got them a blow-up one. I thought, all right, we'll try it. And it actually was very durable. It was like $200. And it is literally an octagon, probably, I think that one was 18 feet across. Comes about, short, probably 3 feet high, but the kids are inside and they have a rubber ball. And they have to go below the knees and try to tag each other. If it's above the knee, the person who threw the ball is out. It's insane. But they're so all ages. We had first grade and fourth grade playing at the same time. It was amazing, and they loved it. So they wanted a more permanent one because I lent it out to another part of our school and but so the kids did their fundraiser, and we asked what was the number one thing that they'd like to see, and so they added the Gaga pit. So it'll be installed by the swings on that further side. So if we do ever build out, it doesn't need to be moved or anything. So
Cool.
kids are excited. And we found ochre colors too, which
Awesome. Thank you. 9.3 maintenance custodial report.
In there,
Yeah.
in there. So, they're staying busy, lots going on. The ice, that parking lot piece is popping up again. You don't really see it, you don't notice it as much. It just looks like wet pavement, but these mornings when it's been 25 degrees, it's like a slalom of ice down there, so it's not ideal. We tried fixing it. I mean, and that was before me, like right before I think that was Patty's last year. They did the work, they dug the thing, they put a drain in, it's still doing it. Actually, to me, it was worse. I don't know what the answer is. Weather, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, I think it'll be our idea of, again, looking at future plans of maybe paving and doing some paving out there and incorporating some a little bit more and expanding that parking lot. When we do that, hopefully we'll be able to address it again and see what the answer is, especially after spring. Anyways.
Superintendent report 9.5.
So I'll go, the facility report, give you a quick on that. Just a quick going through, we got, the maintenance staff was super busy over Christmas break. They did a fantastic job, got the basketball hoop installed in there. Finished a minor little thing. So really phase one of the Lincoln seismic is finally done. So it's great. The basketball hoop in there is awesome. It's a hang down from the ceiling, retractable, so you can still see the stage. So turned out great. It was a lot of work and harder than they expected, but done good. Wood shop edition, air compressor we got it built. They built a little cubby hole for it off the side. If you're walking and you go in the gym, if you look down the side of the shop, it's right there. It just pops out the side of that addition. It's like about maybe 5 feet out, 6 feet across, maybe. They have right now we just have a piece of plywood in front of it, but we have a roll-up door ordered for it. So the air compressor is in there. Unfortunately, before we got that done, they were trying to move the air compressor to a different spot in the shop and tipped it over, broke some parts on it. So we have it in there and it's in place, but we haven't got the replacement parts yet. Should be here anytime, and it will then be up and running. And we have electricals done with it, so it's basically ready to go. So finish that project as well. Reader board, it looks awesome down there. I mean, it turned out even better than we hoped it would. But the reader board itself, I'm a little annoyed, which fits this project 100% over. They've had it in Eugene at ESNA Science. They've had it there since I think it got delivered in November or October. And so they've been down 3 or 4 times. They've surveyed our site. Well, they came down again to survey our site, got it done, came down to do the survey last Wednesday. So it's great. It's going to be put in this week. Well, now they have to go through a process of they do something where they go to their schematics to basically talk about how they're going to put it in place, which should have already been done because they knew exactly what we were building, and that's going to take 2 weeks. So it's going to be installed the last week of February. So we should have it in place within, which is I guess not that far away, 2.5 weeks. Okay. So that last week of February, we don't have an exact date, but it should be on that date. We got the plaque in. We got a plaque that basically talks about the bell and the significance of the bell and all of that. And then we also put on their reader board built or whatever in 2025. Forgot to add the piece about Callie Sarnowski winning the contest to do it. So she is going to, we ordered a follow-up plaque that's going to go just right on the bottom. So we'll put those in place. They'll be up anytime. And then, so we've already talked to Aileen's already done the training for it. She's ready to start throwing out messages. We can put up David. We will we'll have to figure it out. There'll be a learning curve for it. But we can also schedule messages to go out, hey, on Wednesday, drop this message. So I think she'll be able to take some time on Monday and set up events for the week and have those come out for that day. So they'll be over. So it should be a day-to-day thing. We'll have some stock messages that are in there and so forth. So finally up and running. Took 2.5 years. we're right on track with LMS 5-6 Hall. That one's kind of fallen off because it's ready to go with all the planning and with the way we wrapped it up this summer, except for the floor. That whole floor in the hallway is going to have to be yanked out and redone, which is fine. We're going to be doing a bunch of work in there anyway. Good chance it's going to get damaged anyway. So, and it's all warranty work, so they're going to replace all that. Gym seismic rehab, we got that on OHS Gym. We started all the pre-con on that. We did a page turn on the drawings. I mean, the design, because it's a newer building, they still have to do a little bit more they want to cut a hole in a couple of more walls to make sure that there's rebar that they think that it showed on the x-rays that they want to actually break in to make sure that there's rebar in there. Right now, almost all the stuff they're doing is around the perimeter of the outside. So we'll get a brand new roof, which will be nice. We're going to get brand new bathrooms in there. They're going to go with the single-use bathroom, same design that we have down there. Last meeting that we had, looks like they're going to change the design where when you walk in now, you walk in along through the door and you're walking along the solid wall where the oak tree's painted and you turn right to go into the gym, and that's where you enter the bathrooms. The design for it going in that way really kept the single-use bathrooms down the middle, so it still was really a separated. So I think what we talked through, we haven't seen final pictures of it, but I think we're going to solid that wall in and then cut a hole where the tree is, and you'll basically walk in that way. So you'll enter the bathrooms that way. Will actually be easier access from the hallway, be easier to monitor that way. So it'll give us that that wall in the lobby that we can be able to put stuff on if we need more trophy cases or if we have some use on it or whatever. So it's in the middle of that, still again hoping to get we are in the process actually. We're trying to manage a light plan in there right now and do that on the front end, possibly spring break, although I think we'll probably get a little too tight for that to make it happen. We want to get all those lights out of there and put new lights in. Those are going to be motion lights. When you walk in, they'll turn on. They're much more efficient electrical wise and cost. But the big thing is get those bulbs that are no longer able to get in Oregon. Those fluorescents. Thank you. So what we're going to do is pull all those out and stockpile them, since we can't buy them in Oregon because we do have them in everywhere. There are a lot of other places around the district. So we'll pull all the ones out of the gym, keep them, and then hopefully get the new lights in. So we're hoping for new lights, new bathrooms, obviously seismically rehabbed, new roof. We're going to tear the boiler should come out in one piece because we have to redo that roof where those trusses were cut. We're going to pull the boiler out in one piece, so it'll be much more cost efficient than how much it costs to tear that one apart. So we'll have to, and we have the abatement is set for spring break. So they're going to come in and do all the abatement in the attic, all the abatement on the pipes of that boiler and stuff, and it'll be ready to come out. So it's moving along well. I still think we're going to go phase 2 and do the floor the summer after, just so we can make sure we have all the work done and not damage it. We can scrape one more year out of the floor that we have, and then we'll after that. Softball field, working out plans, prepping for the summer. Plan is to dig it in this summer. We had a progress meeting to make sure we all got on the same page. I think we kind of got close to this. We're in the same chapter at least, so we're getting closer. We have plans going for that. They're supposed to go out to get some bid. We're waiting on final plans from the engineer. As soon as we have those, McKinsey's ready to go get bids on the dirt work that we need done, cost of the dugouts, all of the fencing, all those things. We'll get the money together and figure out what that's going to look like. So we know the basics that we're going to get done. There's some additional things that are wanting to be done out there that will all be money dependent. And so our idea is we've taken the whole list of everything that needs to be done, and we're getting costs for each piece, and we're going to go, yep, this is what we can afford to do. This is set to be later. We're going to try and do it in a way that if we have to add the laters in, we'll be able to. On and awesome, I paid for the site bill today. The site plan, I paid the city for that, so air planning starting to work through that. So we're still planning in mid-April groundbreaking down there. So I don't know that that's going to happen, but that's our plan. And we still feel like in all of our meetings tomorrow, the DDs are 100% done. So we're going to do that page turn tomorrow at 9:30 with everybody on board to walk through it, kind of final plans. And if that's good, then we'll start the permitting process, and we're hoping to be set ready in mid-April. It'll be weather dependent, of course, but that's our plan. The development of the area behind the track and this piece over here, hit some just snags that you hit when you're working with people. The contractor drug his feet because he's not excited about the silt fence that was part of the bid that he knew he had to do, and he doesn't like having to do it. And so he's dragging his feet on that. And then the fight with CenturyLink and getting that pole. We finally got that pole out. It is done and cut down, and they wired it in. PP&L helped us with that. So at this point, as soon as he gets back from Mexico, they'll pull that hump of dirt off. There's a little bit he's still got to do along the edge going in, kind of on the backside where the fence comes up. He's still got to scrape that a little bit. It's about another 300 yards of dirt to come out of there. And then once that's done, we'll get it smoothed off. And then they'll redo the gravel that they brought in to do that. They'll place that in where those buses are and kind of extend that parking pad a little bit. We're just going to sprinkle some grass seed on there and hopefully try and grow grass in the short term. And then we'll get the fence going as soon as we do that. All of that included. I have not started kind of the next phase yet on the back there, figuring out how much dirt we need. I don't know yet. Still need to get the stuff we pulled over there spread out and flattened out. Weather kind of hurt us on that. And of course, that super cold weather would have been a perfect time to be doing it. We missed our window on that because of whatever. So, but it's moving and getting there. We are getting bids on a separate thing just right out back of this building where you come out of the baseball field because those outside two bathrooms are used for baseball games. But we just have a sidewalk and then a dirt drop off. So we're getting bids right now to hopefully get done within the next 3-ish weeks of putting stairs down there so they can drop down and so it's safer for them to go. It's wet and slick so people aren't falling down. We still have the ADA accessibility around the front and they can still get into it. They're ADA bathrooms. So we're not putting a ramp in. It's too steep for that. So we have that, and then the walking path, the ODOT City of Oakland worked with ODOT to get a grant to extend that walking path that comes along the baseball field right along here, Old Town Loop. So there's that big kind of grassy area that's flat and it's kind of walking. People walk there, but they're putting in a blacktop path along there. So ODOT's doing that. We're hoping that this happens this summer.
You have 2 summers.
Yeah.
So we'll see how it goes. Yeah.
Possibly this summer. It might be planning stage this summer and do it next summer. But grant, so that's awesome. That's going to be a huge addition to the school. PE will be able to use that now. Kids will be able to transition back and forth between buildings even a little better. And I know it's not going to impede where baseball fans come up, pull up their park. So, and that's pretty much it for facilities. Data, where we're at.
Okay, enrollment report, 9.6.
That was facilities. I got a quick super report for you, but I promise it'll be short. In the first matter, that's all right. Legislature, I talked about that earlier questions in full swing, doing those 8 o'clock Zooms every Friday has been really helpful. I do think that SUPES in general and COSA and OSBA all panic over silly things that are just there. So someone had a conversation about they're going to write a bill on this and then people are all freaking out. There's a big process before they become laws, but good to stay in the mix and hear all that out. So that's been a positive. I hosted a meeting 2 weeks ago of the OEC, the Oregon Educational Collaborative. So what that is a spinoff of the OSSA, not to be confused with the OSAA, which governs sports. OSSA is the Oregon Small Schools Association. So it's really for, I think it's school districts, maybe 1,200, 1,500 or less enrollment. It's small schools in Oregon. So they have this group. It's like COSA, except it's just for small schools. So they've had some internal issues. So a group of people basically is peeled off and is creating this new entity called the Oregon Educational Collaborative. So they asked Jeff Clark from Amity, their superintendent, called me and asked if he could host coming down to the Douglas County SUPES to present about the collaborative. I said, that's fine. I mean, I think information's important, so we need to hear them. So I opened it up to all the SUPES, had 3 or 4 SUPES showed up and they gave their presentation. They're having a gathering of some sort in the, I think, middle of April. I'm kind of riding the fence on going. I think it's where they're going to kind of make their big push to gain people. I don't know if there's value in staying in both staying with the small schools, because the small schools is established, it's bigger, not a lot of members. They did partner with COSA, which I think is probably some of the problem with the OEC. They don't like that COSA doesn't, they don't believe COSA has a voice for the small schools. I'm not sold on that yet. We'll see. Just monitoring the situation. So just letting you guys know that that's a possibility. And then I sent stuff out for the EVE survey, which is the Elevating the Voice of Educators survey. So this year, the state required us to, first time in a long time that they've required surveys. They required 3 surveys for us to do this year. The Healthy Teen survey, which we've done quite a bit for over the years, kind of decided to stop doing it. Well, then they required it this year, so we're going to keep doing it. So that was done in the fall. That's done. And then the EVE survey is Elevate Voice of Educators. Basically gives, I sent it out to all of our staff of all anybody that works in the district. Got to see it, got the opportunity to do it. It's not required, but they got the opportunity to get on and do it. The window's open until about mid-March. Push that out there. And then the third one is the SEED survey, which is a offshoot of state testing, which our kids will have the opportunity, if they choose not to opt out of the survey, to take that when they do their state testing the next couple months. So have that out there. And and then I wrote a letter of support. I wrote it and signed it myself. You know, when I do that, I'm representing the district, but I wrote it as me. Basically, there's a group of people that are going after a state grant for $50 million to build a sports complex in Douglas County, basically to try an indoor and an outdoor complex. It's got some outdoor turf fields, baseball, softball, football fields, and soccer fields, and then and an indoor building. So they're asking. So my response was, well, that's great. $15 million. We're building a gym for $9 million, and that's not big enough for the whole county. And but they have some other funding sources. They're just going after this grant. So I wrote a letter in support of the grant, how important it would be to have this for us. That is super important.
Okay, enrollment report. Timer's saying,
It's time to get out there. Enrollment is hanging strong. We're gained a couple of students. We had a huge number to start with, dropped off. Pushing them between buildings. We lose 1 or 2 in one building, gain 1 or 2 in another building. But hanging strong at 645. So again, about the upper end of where we want to be.
Property update.
I don't have a ton of new info on that. I'm working with the city council to try and have a sit down with a group of the city manager, mayor, and just kind of talk about what we can do if there's a land swap possibility or whatever options are out there to try and make that Washington property more sellable. So just putting it out there as a reminder. I thought we'd have something scheduled by now, so I'm sorry I dropped the ball on that and haven't got it done, but I'm working on it. We will get that. Once that happens, at least I'll know where to go from there. So that's still going. Haven't forgotten.
Complaint policy, second reading, November 2024 updates.
So you got this food killing stack of policies. Had 2 months to go through them, so see if you guys have any questions, adjustments, or.
There's a little pink tabs.
Yep. I only have a couple.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Wherever you want to start.
Yeah. Okay. First one. Usually.
Me?
Yeah.
Well, I presented them with so you have my write-up. So this is what my recommendations are, and then I highlighted what I think when we had options, I highlighted what I thought was best. So generally, then you guys come back with any questions, comments, or concerns you guys have, or whatever, and we'll pop through them. So actually, if you guys want to just point out what policies jumped up out to that you have questions on. And remember, we had that group that we canceled off because of the change.
Which brings me to my first question.
Okay.
So on AC,
The first one,
First one,
non-discrimination.
yeah.
Yep.
on page 2.4, I guess it is.
2.24, yeah.
So there's a highlighted paragraph there at the top. And it says in the second line, in accordance with Administrative Regulation AC-AR1, which we are deleting or not. That was on the list of ones that were not. So does that make this,
I would say that I did not go back and cross that out, but I would say that
we don't have that, then do we have this?
ACAR. So yes, it would be, so what we're gonna do is keep what we have. So I would say what we need to is, take the one out of there, but we're still gonna have AC.
So we have an
We have
ACAR.
an
We just didn't have a copy of that.
I don't think that was, might have been, yeah, because we,
Should be the first one.
So it should be.
yes, ACAR. So as you go down, that would be right above the ACAR 1 and 2. So when we lay those policies out for the AR, so the first thing that you have in your stack is what we currently have.
Right,
It doesn't look the same.
It doesn't look the same.
It's just.
right. But wouldn't we, since this refers to an ACAR, does that mean we currently have an ACAR?
That's what that is right there. But I wanted to see that. So that's what you're holding.
No, mine is AC. I don't have an
There's AC
ACAR.
and then there's AR. It looks like this.
That one's
Yeah.
AC.
If you don't have an ACAR.
No.
Well,
Yeah, we only have the AC.
I have it in mind.
As long as there's an existing
Yeah,
one,
we have an
Okay.
ACAR. So
because that was the
so
question.
the
I had.
change in that policy, I guess, adjustment was just scratch out the one. We're still gonna do it with our current ACAR, not option one that we canceled out.
Okay,
And I'd say that is still probably a little bit to be determined
right.
as that flows through the courts. But right now, we're reverting back to what we had.
Okay.
So we did have an ACAR.
So on that same page, number 8, near the bottom,
Yep.
it looks like we have two choices. Are we picking one? Was there a recommendation? There are two bracketed items, or do they just go together?
That is, the district can make this regard to choose either of the two bracketed options. We don't-
Yeah, I have so, I mean, we are following.
So would it be
So
the,
we're just following what it says, right? We're just following on the next page. So it says, so we're, by satisfying the following training requirements is satisfying the training requirements in that OAR. So it's bracketed, which I'm not sure why it's asking us to choose that, because we are satisfying the training requirements of the OAR by,
Okay,
it spells out what.
so we don't have to choose
requirements are.
one or the other here. Okay, that's the
Again,
question.
I don't know why they, it should have just been a by
Yeah,
satisfying the following requirements.
all right.
mine's not until later.
Okay, let's see what I can do here.
Okay.
This one was kind of, so the current ACAR, school district policy.
Discrimination complaint procedure.
Yeah. So that one was more of a question on step 3 of that. So if that, it talks about the complaint coming, that would come to a regular board meeting. So how does that work if your complaint is a minor?
I would say still, even if the complaint is a minor, they would still bring it to the board meeting. If they went through that process.
Okay,
Generally speaking, if your complaint is a minor, they have an adult attached with them,
okay,
generally speaking. Speaking for them or with them.
okay. But would they normally, I mean, don't we, like the student, we normally don't have a student's name.
Well, I'd say if that's in that choice of if they're continuing along the process, they're gonna do that. I think they can choose to do that in executive session. So
So
they
it
can
says
choose to do it in executive session.
They can?
I
Okay.
think so.
something about, and the representative at the next
Yeah.
regular board meeting.
I mean, I guess I don't have a great answer for that. I assume Yeah, because it says in the last one, if a person who resides in the district or a parent or guardian of a student who attends school in the district is not satisfied, they fail to render, then they have that option. So I would say you would still do it. I think that I don't want to go so far as to say they waive their right of privacy, so to speak, but if they're making that complaint, they're speaking for themselves on the complaint. So I would say we would, and I thought it would go executive session, but it doesn't say that, so
No, that's
I would say it would be an open meeting.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
And that's that policy that we're talking about, ACAR.
So I was like, oh wait, that's the right.
So the one you're just looking for?
Yeah.
ACAR?
Oh, is that it?
Yeah.
That's it.
No, it's just in the wrong place. So, yeah, I think this one, I was just curious, this is the DBN/JBA-AR1. That rolls right up.
GDN, JBA.
AR1, yeah.
That one's got crossed out.
Yeah, it's a do not update, so why was it slated to be deleted? I mean, I was a little confused.
Well, so keeping in mind that this went through, so I did all of this work, and then then after that is when we got the, so like either the day or the day before the board meeting, when I gave you this, so I done all this. And
Okay.
then came out with, here's that, that's why we attached that email. These changes are different than what I have in here. So you almost have to ignore everything I did in those policies
Okay.
because this supersedes that.
So we're not.
So prior to that, this would have been just
Yeah,
up for
That was gonna
deletion.
be deleted.
Okay.
So now we're not deleting it because we have to keep it because of the new interpretation. Yes.
Are you all straight now?
Sorry for the confusion that came with that. That's why I was like, ooh, even when I pitched that and said, hey, here's the email that.
Well, yeah, I understood
It's a
that,
little
but
confusing,
yeah,
so,
okay.
Yeah, sorry.
No worries there. So, sorry, I have to look at each of these and see. Oh, this one's simpler other than the name of the policy. GC BDC.
Okay, hold on. Jeez. Yeah.
They could work on this a little bit.
13. So,
And after all, this is pretty simple.
well, finding it though is a challenge.
Domestic violence.
And this is, yeah,
harassment,
domestic violence, harassment,
Yeah.
sexual assault, bias. So
GCBDC.
C
Yep. Okay.
slash GDBDC.
BDC. Yep.
All right, we good
So,
there?
Top one is our current policy, so now I am at the one we are adopting.
Yeah, so this is page 3-4. And this is right above definitions. In the highlighted area right above that. Simple, the last line that has the and or stricken, to me, it looks like it ought to be there.
The district may choose the order in which paid accrued leave is to be used when more than one type of paid leave is available, consistent with board policies. Any applicable,
Because it doesn't make sense, first of all, that's something there.
Comma, any applicable collective
I
bargaining
think if you put
agreement
another comment in there,
or
if you put another comment, so paid leave is available, consistent with board policies, comma, any applicable collective bargaining agreement, comma, or other agreement. Does that make it make more sense or not?
I don't know.
I mean, I think if they take the and or out and saying, here's these three things. So the district can choose the order in which paid leave is to be used when more than one type of paid leave is available, consistent with board policy, any applicable collective bargaining
Okay,
agreement.
yes,
Or
okay,
any
gotcha.
suggestions. So that's
Okay.
why it's stricken. They left the comment.
Yes, all right.
Grammar. Hey,
You
Mikel.
gave this a mark, didn't you?
totally on this.
I wish. All right, so that's that.
We're over halfway through the file.
All right.
So we'll be keeping score at home.
This one was, I think, to do with the number of things that said 2A or.
Which policy, yeah.
So this is is it
IIA, got it.
Okay.
Look at that. New format.
Instructional resources, instructional materials. So we have a existing policy. We have a delete. And then we have another sample policy. It says new format, and it just says instructional materials instead of instructional resources / instructional materials.
AR1.
So I think that your delete is the policy that we have. So we have the policy.
Well, we have this one, and then I have one that has delete that's a sample policy, and then I have a model sample policy that comes after that, and they're all IIA.
But this one is a new format.
Yeah.
So that means,
So
But they have definitions in it.
so we want the new, so this
yes,
is just,
so the delete's gonna be deleted. They're
Okay.
saying you have to delete that one.
okay,
And then you're going to this this new IIA
Okay.
is going to be this one because they added all of it. So you have to delete. They don't, unless when it's required, they then say, hey, not only is it required, you gotta delete what you currently have to adopt this, which why they're stating the obvious.
Okay.
All
all right.
So that's what this one is. It's just, and this one is more detailed with all of the definitions and everything else that goes in there.
Okay, that makes sense. I was just wondering why there was two preceding that.
So you have the one that we have, and then if you really, I'm pretty sure that the delete is essentially almost identical to what we currently have. So they're saying, here's your policy. We put that in ourselves. Here's our current policy. You're deleting it,
Okay,
and then here's the new
Okay.
option that's required to take. Pretty sure this is required.
so
I do remember.
next up, I have IIA-AR2, page 2-4. And I'd say the first thing is you have a couple big question marks up there at the top, and that's one of the things that I have.
And that's, my question is really, where do you guys want to land as a board? So that's what all right, so request for reconsideration. So this is somebody wants to get rid of some curriculum that we have. They want to reconsider some core curriculum. So staff member, student, or their parent or guardian or resident of the district wishing to file a request for reconsideration of core instructional materials must complete step 1 above prior to filing a request for consideration. So they go through step 1. All requests for consideration will be in writing on the form prepared for this purpose. To me, I highlighted that. To me, that's just them send the request. I mean,
There is a form.
yes, let me see. I was gonna say, I think I got it confused. I don't know
It's right
what that
here.
form is.
So I think we insert the form name,
Yes.
consider request
Yes.
form to reevaluation of instructional
Yeah.
materials into that area.
There we go.
That would,
Yeah.
that would make sense.
So name of the form
Yeah.
goes there.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
And as we keep going, the reconsideration committee made up will be at least 9. I said, and I thought we should cut it to 7. That was my recommendation.
Mhm.
Cut that to 7. I don't think you need 4 members of the community. I think you cut that to 3, and then I think you take the student out from there.
So then, on 4, where you changed it to 3, does that make sense?
Yep.
3 members.
Mhm.
3 members from the community having expressed willingness to serve on this committee,
Yes.
appointed annually by the board. We don't,
And I would cross that out. That's why I have the 3 in that. I think I've experienced this once as a principal. Someone wanted a book we were using in English to not be used. So I went through this process and we convened the committee, I called some community members, brought them in. I don't think it makes sense to have a standing committee. We ask people to do committee stuff and you have a limited number of people that are willing to do that. To have them standing on a committee that they're never going to be used doesn't make sense to me. I think when this comes up, you call them, I'll do it. So I think we could cross off the appointed annually by the board and just not have that.
but you can take everything from community on and just get rid of
Yes.
that in that case.
Yes. And I think that with the assumption, I guess, as dangerous as that word can be, with the assumption that the principal has to run this process. So the principal needs to do it. And I tried to, when I went through it, speaking from experience, I didn't call a slam dunk committee. I called people that I thought would work that all sides, super conservative, a little bit on the liberal side and a little bit in the middle. And so I could get a good offering from all sides. And I think that's important from the principal's perspective, so.
Okay.
Reconsideration committee may include other designated district personnel and discussions about complaints which relate to an underrepresented group or a protected class. So I think we keep that first sentence and then I think we get rid of the second.
As you have listed.
Yeah, the committee selected will only serve to consider the material which is subject to the request for reconsideration. And then get rid of the second sentence. I accidentally crossed it all out and had to re-highlight it.
You're on a roll.
You were
I
on
was
happy.
slashing.
So, let's see. Trying to figure out where I went next. So, I can't remember, this one is IIA AR3, 2-4, and it's the same thing. We're talking about the committee again.
I would say it's all the same. This is just the difference in this policy is you got core instructional materials and you got supplemental materials. So it's should be same process, just for different stuff.
Yeah, and I couldn't remember if there was differences in the way they were made up. You just looked at it
So
quick.
on that same area, that three to
Yeah,
two, yeah, we need to
Okay.
have an express willingness to serve on this committee appointed by the principal.
So we just cross it.
Yeah.
And actually, members from the community, I think you leave appointed by the
Yeah.
principal.
And should those all then, so for the core instructional should be from the superintendent and these should be by the principal as far as,
You know,
and that's just one of the questions that I had.
as I'm going back. I'm like, okay, I want to say,
Up there it says principal. Maintained by the principal.
person in the outcome of junior conversation. That's the initial complaint that they got for that meeting meeting.
So.
But that's for the in-core.
So the receipt of a written request for reconsideration, superintendent will appoint a reconsideration committee.
Yes.
So that
So-
will be there.
So because it's core, maybe because it's core that's been adopted by the supplemental as a teacher's choice, they can bring in whatever supplemental stuff they
Okay.
want. So that's more of a building thing. So this probably,
And then we had the form question at the top of this page again, assuming we use the same form.
Yeah.
Yes, put in the name of
Yes,
the
and
form.
they named it that for.
Okay. Right. And then I think the next one I have is the one where you have discussed as a group.
All right.
And IIA AR3 4-4.
Okay. I gotta remind myself of what.
What we were trying to do.
Yeah. Okay. So I guess my concern with this is, all right, you go through all this process, you bring the committee in, the committee comes in, does their work, volunteers, they gotta read the book or read the material. They gotta do homework, you're gonna come in, you're gonna sit around, teachers, community members, administrators, all the people that are in your group. So then you get to K and it says the decision from the reconsideration committee will be issued within 45 days of receipt of the written request for reconsideration by the principal. Response to the request, committee's decision, and information regarding an appeal to the, and then it talks about the appeal. The decision will be copied to the involved parties and to the public. Committee's decision will be the final decision of the district. So I highlighted that because, but you guys need to make this choice. My recommendation, my thought on it is if we make all the committee work, do all that work, their decision needs to be final. Because it's not gonna, it doesn't, I don't believe it sends a very good message if we ask them to do all that work and they make a decision, keep or toss, and then whoever is pushing it doesn't like it, and they come to now appeal it to the superintendent or the board, and then you guys overturn it. So to me, or whichever, the who. So to me, I felt like if we're gonna make that decision, I think that the committee's decision should be final. But you guys might not want to see that power, and you might want to have the ability to overturn that. And if you do, that's fine. Makes sense. You guys are the ones that adopted the core material, so you would have the ability to have that final say. So, so that's the question. Even though it's an AR, I'd like a group discussion. And the reason I said that's because administrative rules are administrative rules. That's our job as admin to put in, but it concerns you guys, so I feel like that's a decision you guys need to make.
Now, for what it's worth, this is supplemental instructional, not core.
Yes. Yes. Recommendation, yes. Reconsideration of some, yes. So in that sense, I guess you haven't. You've entrusted the principals to do that. So
Yeah.
that's where I believe that the committee does all the work. Your committee's decision should be what it is. And I think that it's the principal's job sitting on that committee to then turn and sell that to the teacher. Hey, this needs to go. We went through the process and it needs to go. Because at that point, the appeal that comes to the board or the superintendent, if the committee decides to get rid of it and the teacher's like, no way, this is important, we need to do this, I want to appeal that decision, then it comes to you guys and I wouldn't say starts the process over, but to me, I think that's part of our job as principals. Our job as principals, their job as principals to because they're sitting on the committee, they went through the discussion and then if the decision is it's gone, they need to then go let the teacher know why that is and go through the process.
Do you think
But
that
sure
the
does.
board should be just aware of the situation and the reasoning?
Oh, they're definitely gonna be aware of it. You're gonna get a report to, hey, this is going on. You get a report on the front end. Hey, we've had a complaint about this material. You get a,
Yeah.
here's the process and it's over a month and 45 days is a long time, but still, there's a good chance 2 meetings are gonna take place in that time period. So you're gonna get a, hey, this is happening. And then you're gonna get a, hey, this
This is the
happened.
outcome.
This is the outcome. So
And I think to me, that would, I mean, we trust that they're gonna make the decision based upon the collaboration of the whole committee. I would think that it would be fine with leaving it.
So I did not, that's why I didn't highlight all those options in that paragraph, because my recommendation is your committee.
Is the
Your
final.
committee is your final say. But if you don't want that and you do want it to come to the board or the superintendent, because it can be either, then we just need to make the decisions on that.
But we want to know what their material would be that they're complaining about, correct?
Well, you would be, essentially, you're gonna go through you're gonna be in a much truncated time schedule.
15 days.
15 days, so you might end up with a special meeting to do it as well, if, where the time frame goes, if you have 15 days to respond to it, and in that time, if, let's say hypothetically this happens, I'm going to give you the material and say, hey, we got a meeting in X
14
number of
days.
days that we're gonna meet, and we need to decide this, so you need to go review this material, and at that point, I would probably also give you the written recommendation from the committee of why they chose to toss it or keep it or whatever. I'll say. Sit here and
Well,
appeal.
To throw another wrench in the works, this is supplemental instructional materials, but one time when I was not on the board, but I watched the book, a book was brought to the attention and went through the process, and it was brought by a board member. So then how does that work?
I would say at that point, it would still go through, but that board member would recuse himself from the appeal.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I would think so.
Yeah, they're just not an exit. It would be then a group of 4, which is awkward, but it makes it more difficult.
Yeah.
4, even number, but they would just recuse themselves from it and just make the decision for this left.
I'm fine with the decision by the final decision by the committee. I mean, I think we've kind of gone through process and we could keep going, looping this around forever.
Well, and and that's, I guess, part of it. I think that, I think in schools quite often, we look for input, we get input from our community, but we don't always, we'll say we don't value it, but we don't always, there's always appeal processes in
Right.
place. So then it becomes, why are we doing this if we're then just going to not ignore, but they're going to get stepped on along the ladder. So I think if you put it together, and I guess part of it is, I'm speaking from the experience that I had with it, I walked away and I would have been pretty annoyed if, we as a committee put all that time in and came to this consensual decision. We're all in favor, we're doing this. And then the board goes, yeah, no, that one's gotta go. Because they have different personal feelings or whatever, when we kind of went through a little bit of a wider range. But again, I'm good either way, not selling, that's why you guys get to make that choice.
I'm good with security.
It is.
I did have one other question just above that.
Yep.
Says the principal will communicate the decision to the affected staff and to the public. How will they be letting the public know? Read the word. Well, that is an option. I will call.
Yeah.
I mean, I like those things kind of spelled out because public is an awfully big term.
My interpretation of that is when you get that complaint, the complaint comes from one person, but there's other people involved in the complaint. So you have in that case of the situation that I went through, it was a book that was used in English, and I had probably 5 or 6 parents that were upset by it, and then one actually formed the complaint. So I reached out individually to all of those people, and that was my way of communicating to the public. I didn't do a blanket thing because that pulls the scab off, and I don't want to make it a bigger deal than it is. So I feel like my definition of that is to the public is based on the people that brought it forward. But we could also, we could pull that off. It's in brackets, so we don't have to have that in there.
I think I would. I think I'd get rid of it.
Yeah.
I can
Affected staff.
trying to openly
And-
communicate.
Well, I mean, there comes a point.
Yeah.
Well, and I think it needed to be specific if it was in there,
Yeah.
but I
No, I
just
think
get rid
just
of it.
bracket is fine.
All right, moving right along. So I have on IIAAR 4, 2-4,
You got it, got it. Okay.
let's see, it looks like it is 2D. Are we choosing, is it both district librarian and principal or just one? I didn't know if we had to make a choice. It looks like you, oh, curriculum director.
Yeah, it needs to just say principal.
Okay,
I just didn't. Principal to do that.
okay. Also 4A,
Because this is on library material, right?
Mhm.
I still would have the principal. The librarian's gonna have a say in it, and we don't have, it would be a little different if we had licensed librarians across the board.
Yeah,
We don't,
right.
Specialists, so that's definitely principal.
okay. The 4A designated committee member to keep minutes of the committee. I mean, with all these different reconsideration committees, should that person always be the same?
My take on that would be, that's the principal that's doing it, is taking the notes on it.
Okay.
Because because we're not gonna have, it's not gonna be the same members sitting on that committee.
Right,
If it's if it's the elementary library versus the high school library or the middle school, so I don't know that we could.
Not the same person as much as the same
I
position.
think the principal I would assume that the principal would do that. So I
Okay.
think so we're gonna designate a committee member, but it's gonna be the principal.
Okay.
Because the principal's the one that's gotta write up all the results of the meeting and what the final thing is and all that.
Yeah.
What the decision is.
This one I just didn't quite understand. This is IKF graduation requirements, 7-9.
Dash 7-.
Yeah, so at the top, I mean, we have a whole big bracketed part. I mean, is this something we're choosing or not choosing, or sometimes the brackets, I'm not sure.
So certificate of attendance,
Yeah, that whole section.
yeah, that's all in there. I guess I did not highlight it, but that's all just the definition of what a certificate of attendance is.
Okay, so that's not not a choice or something like that. And then 21, bottom of the page, the footnote, then there's a bracketed,
Regular full time.
couple brackets. But,
Which one do we choose?
yeah, because
Looks like there's two
Yeah.
choices.
the regular full-time
Mhm.
attendee, yeah.
Yeah. What would be the lesser of the two? Like, the lesser, more than 10% of school days.
10% of school days is gonna be basically 14 days, 15 days. So if you're, so 10% is gonna be a lot less days than not having 8 or more unexcused absences in any 4-week period. You could spread that out and have a whole lot more than 15 days absent. So I guess based on that, excused absences are considered absent.
I would go latter, but that's just.
Latter being the second one. So going to 8 or more unexcused absences in a 4-week period. I mean, I think that
Only encouraged to be there, but. I mean, because if you think of 14 days. There's been times like McKinley has been out. Through the course of the year, for the year, school year.
it does, and in that one, it does say it still equates to having unexcused absences for less than 20% of the days or class periods. So
So it gives you a
it still
little
puts a
bit
limit
more.
on it.
Yeah,
It's
but a
more,
little bit.
but I'm fine with the second one.
You guys good with the second one? I mean, we want to encourage the kids to stay, but. It's good.
And last but not least for me. I know, hard to
I only
believe.
had a couple, and you pinpointed those too, so.
Under medications, JHCD, these are questions that I have. This is new.
JHCD-ARs. Like a map set. So did you say the AR or not?
No.
Just JHCD medications?
Right. 1-2, it really doesn't matter.
Yep.
So do we have someone set up in each school designated to administer medication?
Oh, yeah. We have
Okay.
we do trainings every year.
Okay.
So we have the over-the-counter stuff, get trainings, the glucagon, we have glucagon trainings, we have EpiPen trainings. Each one has a different retraining process. Some are good for, some you have to do every year, some you do every 2 years, some you do every 3 years. And then we do it, the over-the-counter ones, so Advil's the most common one, but there's a few others. Those we have multiple people in the office that get trained. So if one person's on lunch, we have someone else to do it. Have the principals do it as well. So they're almost always around, so they can do it as well. So yes, multiple people trained for that.
Okay, so in addition to, you mentioned epinephrine, it talked about this opioid antagonist.
Narcan.
Okay, that also the same, same thing,
We
okay.
have to have some training for that as well. We have those on hand in each of the buildings as well.
Okay,
So,
that's the only question that it was reading through the policy and going, oh, do we have all these things?
yes, that's something that the staff loves about that first in-service week. They do the medical training, medication training. So we all get a chance to stick the thing in the orange.
All right, I don't have any more.
What?
Does anybody else have any?
You guys got anything over there?
You guys were a little quiet. Okay, superintendent evaluation, so that's me. So the board had an opportunity to evaluate Mr. Clark. And the overall total average score was a 9.5. He was reviewed for his leadership, planning, implementation, communication, control, and organization. Some of the strongest traits that the board felt was he's very strong at communicating, and then his ability to follow things through to the end. He has the ability to lead, which garners respect from the board, the staff, the students, and community, which makes Oakland a better place. And a couple other ones, leadership and respected to everyone. Respect that. Couple of areas of just work in progress. is being able to do a little bit of delegation to kind of help alleviate some of the stress because you have multiple hats just as everyone else does. But I think the biggest one was having a better work-life balance. So there's times where we work a lot, and then there's some times where we just need to say, okay, I'm going to leave at my a normal time, not the normal time of when I do, but a normal work time. Just because family is important as well. So we're very ecstatic to have Mr. Clark as our superintendent. He brings a lot to the community and school, and we just appreciate you. Anything else you guys want to add? 2025 and 26 school calendar.
So we went through our process with the calendar. I took, I think I presented to you a little bit last year of the certified union had came to me with some ideas for changing the calendar, reducing some contact days with students and adding some PLC, professional development, professional learning community time to do some work. It was a little bit late in the game last year, so I said I'll mark the calendar in the fall and we will revisit this because there's a lot of things to it. If we take a day out of the calendar, a contact day out of the calendar, obviously just the fact that that's one less day that we have kids in the building, but also takes a day of work away from our classified and so forth. So there's a lot of levels to it. And so last year when they brought it, it was too late in the game to do it. So we adopted this current year's calendar with based on what we've done in previous times. I put a marker out. I reached out to the unions in the fall. They did a little bit more work on it this year. But again, by the time they got their finished product, it was still a little bit late in the game. We still didn't have classified seat at the table like they really need for some alternatives of how we're going to manage that or what we're going to do on their end. So we ended with I have another piece marker in my calendar for this September, and I will actually call a meeting and get classified, certified admin at the table to start with, talking through what a process might look like. We've already done some of the groundwork. They've done a lot of groundwork on this and had some conversations. So we can then be a lot more direct about, okay, here's the pros and cons. Here's what we need voices from these people if we're going to move forward on this and the whys, and then get classified to the table with be able to get their input as well. And because we do have the ability to force it on the classified that the way that the contract is set, that's not good practice and we don't want to do that. So trying to find better ways to do that. So I will be more direct in, okay, hey, it's time to get this going. I'll set the meetings. We will get the people at the table that we need to. I'm thinking 3 to 5 meetings, and then we'll have an option to present. In the end, we still are going to present an option, which is what we do now to the classified and the certified unions. We give them options. Usually there's 2 or 3. So this year we didn't have that done in time to do that. So this year I presented 2 options to them. The option in front of you, which is option A, that mirrors this year's calendar, just on the new Earth calendar, I guess, to that. So the dates have changed, but otherwise it mirrors this year's. The other option I gave them was to go back to what we used to do 5 to 7 years ago. This calendar that you're looking at, if you look at that first week of school, for teachers, those 3 blue days in August, those are 3 in-service days. Tuesday and Wednesday of that week are 8-hour in-service days. Our in-service days are usually 6 hours long. So those 2 days we go 2 hours longer because we do all those trainings. Teachers are getting ready for their classrooms. They're kind of paraphrasing why we went away from our previous calendar to this one 5 to 7 years ago. They're already here. We're making them do required trainings and so forth. So let's make those 8 hours. We have 2 8 hours there. And then over on October 10th on this one, that's the statewide in-service. So we made that an 8-hour day as well. So if we go as a district, which we have the last 2 years, 2 years ago to Winston, this last year to Sutherland, to do some training over there, that's a longer day. So those 3 days, those extra 6 hours, those 2 hours on each day counts as one of our 20 in-service days. It's just incorporated into those 3 days. So the other option I gave them, option B, went back to the old model of none of those were 8-hour days. And we went Monday through Thursday for 6-hour days that first week. Certified came back with this about 2 to 1, or 3 to 1, I guess was everyone's on average of wanting to go with A. So we'll roll with A. That's my recommendation. I think, like I said, it mirrors this year's calendar, almost identical, simple. Next year will be more of a, there'll be more choices involved, and there'll be more pre-work done to it. So, so we got on the calendar.
Board elections, online training.
This is a reminder for you that it says right in there, we do not have to remind you. It is not our job to take care of this for you,
We
but
need to do a better job of reminding
I
ourselves.
feel like I just wanted to throw that out there because I got the email. So there's 2 reminders on here. The first one is just it's highlighted on there so you can see when if you're rerunning for your positions, the window to register has opened February 8th and it closes March 20th. So
Friday.
what's that?
Friday.
Excellent. So if you are going to rerun, you need to get that paperwork in before March 20th. And then the other thing is just this is for your information. Put it in there. If every time you get elected, you're supposed to do this online training. I will concur. It doesn't say in there. It says it's not our job to make sure that you're doing it and check that off. It doesn't say whose job it is. It doesn't say how they're going to do that, but you're supposed to do it. So I'm reminding you, hey, you're supposed to do this.
I think it might be good when a new board member is sworn in.
I'll be reminded of that. That's
Well,
a
you
good
just
idea.
give them that,
Yeah.
okay, you
Okay.
need to do this.
Perfect. That's a good idea.
Because,
Well,
and how many emails do we get from?
yeah.
Like, okay.
So there are, and basically it shows you the website to go on to do it. When you do it, you register. I'm sure I've not done it. It's not serving as a board member, but I'm pretty sure you put your name and district in there and that's how they check it off. Electronic system. Who the person actually checking that is.
And
but
the one
all
below
this
is
there.
the one is the screenshot of
The completion.
like the little certificate.
So if you could do that and then send it to.
And then,
No,
oh, wait, it's not. on your
Yeah.
responsibility.
It's for you to keep. It's for your own work.
It's for
So
our
print it
class
off
at
or
home.
whatever.
A screenshot, what?
The certificate.
Oh.
It's a certificate that says you completed it, because the only way that they're gonna come back to this is they're gonna call up and say, hey, Tom, you're a board member in Oakland, have you done this? And you go, yes, I have my screenshot right here, or I have my certificate, or depending on which one you go. So I'm just-
Save it in a really important file, okay?
So never find it again. So is the OSBA one also online?
They have,
yes, it was.
I want to say yes, and they do, I think they do Zooms where you can do online in person, but I think there also is a canned version of like going through slides.
So
And
the one I watched last week, I don't know if you can go into your OSBA account and find it in there to watch it. Like it's
Okay.
saved. I mean, I can see it, but I also signed up for the webinar last week.
I think the bigger
But
question
they'll
is
probably-
one shorter than the other?
Well, I think the other ones
OSBA
are-
versus
You can
the
do
state.
it at your own pace, like.
They're all an
slideshow.
hour, about an hour and 20 minutes.
I'd say an hour and a half.
There.
The OSBA one was good stuff. But I've not watched the other one.
Just a reminder.
Thanks for the reminder that you didn't remind us.
Yep.
Okay. Budget calendar 9.12.
Budget calendars in front of you there. Dates, April 16th for the first publication.
That's just a me thing.
What's that?
That's just a me that date. That's Corey, you need to do this.
Have our April meeting. We'll make sure we have our budget committee filled out hopefully by that April meeting. And then May 14th, so just continue on like we normally do it. Do the first budget meeting that May 14th. It is our mission this year to have that budget in our board members and our budget committee members' hands 2 weeks before that meeting. Last time, I think that was our goal last year, and I think we got it to you maybe a week before. And it doesn't feel right. We want that. So our goal is to get it 2 weeks beforehand in your hands.
So as luck would have it,
I was saying.
city's budget is running the same exact schedule as School district.
You're done.
For your May 14th or for,
For both, May 14th and Zoom. But I can do May 14th via Skype or Teams,
Okay.
whatever that is.
so you're saying yours is May 14th as well? So they
At
moved
6
on to
p.m.
Wednesday night? How can they do that? That's not.
They've always done budget that way.
Very impressive.
But normally we're doing ours in April, but I guess audit was running late. I don't know if that's.
There was a lot of municipals that had
Yeah.
a serious issue with getting their audits done. They said something about just with the schools in Oregon with the 197, there was 33 of them that didn't get their audits into the state by the January 1st deadline.
Yeah, so we're a month behind where we normally be. I don't know how you would feel about, I would like to be at the city budget meeting, but if we have these two weeks in advance, I can go through and just if there's anything or questions, I could.
I think that'd be fine. And if you can do it through Teams, those guys would be here. If you have our budget committee, most of the questions before I can.
Yeah.
And
Okay,
I'll make sure to include my slideshow for you so that
Oh,
if
great.
you have any questions on any of that,
that would be awesome.
that way
Thank
you
you.
can see what I'm going to say and present so that you're like, oh, why does that not?
Okay.
Okay.
Cool, perfect.
And June is our test.
Okay.
What?
Rub it in.
Yeah. I was gonna say, are you telling us? You're just talking trash to us.
Yeah, like, come on.
Congratulations.
I think we're leaving that day, but we don't need it, it'll be that's an issue.
And that one, as long as everybody else is here, should be fine. Yeah, we should be fine.
But my phone is right.
FaceTime payments.
What's that?
Yeah,
Great time there.
Not at that, it'd be 11 there, or 10 there, or 11,
You
something
went
like
there.
that. No.
Hey, take one for the team.
I might have had some cervezas or something like that, but no.
You just agree.
Yeah, that'll make me even more
I'm
entertaining.
putting it on the staff story, yeah. Okay, 9.13 Equity Committee reports.
Okay, so on February 6th, we had our integrated guidance needs assessment community meeting that is required for our integrated guidance, which is about almost $1 million worth of our funding goes through that integrated guidance program. So we got to do the needs assessment every 2 years. We're up for that. So we had to do our needs assessment through the community. And we also, as part of that bill that passed 2 years ago, we needed to have our our equity committee in place by the fall of 2025. We went ahead and did it this last year, put our site councils in place, and the middle meeting of our site council from all three buildings meets together. And so we combined those two things and we did our needs assessment through the lens of how are all of our subgroups able to access all of the programs that we're putting out. So we pitched to that group 3 questions. That's kind of what our guiding principles were that night. The principals, PALs, are going to kind of give you a summary of what that committee came up with and what their comments were based around those 3 questions.
So one of the first question we asked, again, asking them to really think outside of themselves and their own students and their own families, but at the broader lens, what barriers currently exist that prevent certain students from accessing school opportunities? And we rolled out a ton of opportunities, community events, harvest festival, the elementary school, etc. Athletics, extracurricular activities, clubs, electives, CTE programs, dual credit, EOP, which is our college credit options, etc. So what barriers currently exist that prevent certain students from accessing those opportunities? And we got a bunch of great feedback, some of which we're already kind of have our wheels turning on in play, but some of the barriers were some middle school CTE opportunities, lack of space, and knowing, we share a lot of our electives with the high school, middle school, band, music, art, but not the ag and the metals. We're out of space, we're out of teachers. It doesn't fit in our schedule. After school activities, one of the barriers was transportation, which we know. We have a lot of students that have to babysit their littles or are involved in athletics or babysitting the littles because they're older is involved in athletics, right? You might have a middle school student that has to go home with the elementary students since they're high schoolers or in high school, etc. So transportation is an issue. Fees, lack of financial assistance for some of those activities. And again, our district's so wide, the distance, living out of town, so transportation. Dual credit, it was just brought up that sometimes our parents don't get the information. We talk to the kids, we forecast with the kids, but The parents may not always get that, and so that was just a good thing to think about, and how we are communicating with our parents so that they can push their kids to be taking dual credit opportunities. Making sure that our documents are in Spanish for some of our Spanish speakers. We've done better. I think we've done a lot better with that, but knowing that that's always something that they need to continue working on, and limiting the clubs at OMS that much time. They've already done a better job of having 2 days a week instead of 1 day a week. So those were the barriers for extra activities that the community came up with.
And our second question was, in the past 2 years, to what extent or not have we provided a well-rounded education to our kids, including not only knowledge and skills for success, but also mental and behavioral health, and then safety, well-being, and life skills. And so it was interesting when they started listing things off, they literally went in order. Pretty amazing. So they started with more of the behavioral, mental health, life skills. Having a counselor at each building, we've had that, I believe it's our third year for that, is huge. That was just, it, as an admin, it is so nice to have more people on your team reaching the kids for that. And so as issues are rising, we have more people on the team with the kids. And then at the elementary school, we have an SEL staff, social emotional staff, and it's contract through the ESD, and it's a behavior interventionist, and then a behavior IA. And then I believe Courtney is only at the middle school, or is it middle school? Look what I said. Oh, they have a mental health intern. So that again is an extra person in that. The advisory class was a big positive that they have back in the schedule. And then increase in our work for all of the district and knowledge about suicide prevention. Things on the rise, but now all of our staff are aware and have their feet on the ground ready. And then at the high school and middle school, there was a lot of emphasis on the extracurricular sports, and just that, well, the training for being a studious as far as training and having your roles set out. Those extracurricular sports really help those kids with that. The knowledge and skills, the after school program at the high school has been doing food handlers license, and then the prep for the driver's ed, life skills. And so those were huge. They have a personal finance class for seniors again for now. The transition teacher who was hired and was primarily hired for the SPED department, but she's branched out. And so she brings from Recruit Hippo more job ideas and things after high school to the kiddos. The middle school did their outdoor school, which was another one. In our SPED department with our students, it's a big push to have the kids in the gen ed classrooms more. And we have a higher increase of our kids in the gen ed classroom now, where before they were more in the resource room pulled out. So that was a big push. And then it was positive because the students who didn't want to stand up in front of the class, but through Alma, and this is middle school, high school, were able to email their teacher and say, you know, hey, I'm missing something here, and get that assistance. That was brought up. And then another thing was the high expectations that our admin have all the time, because it's an open way we raise the bar, eat it, raise the bar again, and we keep going. Some things to work on, we're having more elective options at the middle school level, and that was more in the CTE space. And then space-wise, challenging students at the high school because they want more things, and just where do we put them? Bringing school plays at all grade levels. I think they were meeting kind of like drama. And I think in the elementary, we used to do the little Christmas house. I remember that one. Yeah. And then safety concern was brought up, but we're already on the path to fix that because they talked about having a fence around the elementary. And once we get that final dirt moved, we do get our fence. So that will be nice. And then there was a comment about the basketball hoops at the elementary. I think they're talking about the small covered area because those are my height. But in the other big area, they are because a lot of our students play youth basketball. And so I think they were just saying, you know, give them the regulations so they know what they're shooting for. We're like, okay, they're over there. So it was good. A lot of good information.
Final question was really looking at transition. So what systems do we have to support students and families, whether we're transitioning from each school, but after high school, coming into elementary. I will say this last one was a little bit scattered, I think partly because Mr. Clark did have to chime in at one point when we got here, because there was so much positive because of all the positive things we are. But it's not super helpful when all you're looking at are all the positive things you're doing. So Mine's a little bit scattered because then I think those things that they weren't super comfortable sharing. They're a little bit of encouragement of this is great, but.
Scab
Can you tell us some negative things that we can give suggestions? Starting top down, high school is doing a ton of great things. The dual credits already talked about, information on scholarships, FAFSA, personal finance, career day. Only thing that was mentioned was getting the parents involved in a little bit more of some of that ton of stuff. Again, we expect the high school kids to do most of that on their own, but there are parents that would like a little more information on some of that. So figuring out a way to get that information out there.
We got a board coming.
Yeah, the reader board, there you go.
Yeah, there we go.
And that
There
will
we
be-
go.
That actually will be something that will help on a lot of those things.
Yeah.
Well, I know there's a lot of times that they do have those nights and they have those informational nights, but again, you put that information out there, and I know from a lot of those, let's get a ton of pictures. So. And then a big one was they do a great job of their freshman orientation, getting parents in. Moving down, middle school, one of the things they did hope that we could look at later, we do bring the kids up, give them a little spiel, walk them around, but getting up the parents as well, whether that's at the same time or before the summer, getting them up. One of the questions that came up, not from the person themselves, but someone had asked them, what does that actually look like? Because there is some confusion. Being a fifth grade in a middle school is weird, and so it sounds like that's not always common knowledge as far as how much we keep them separated. And really, our fifth grade is an extension of the elementary. They're just with us, so they're really doing the same thing. It's the elementary model. They're not fixing with our eighth graders. That's a good thing for parents to know. Beyond that, there were some other ideas of course, a preschool interest. It's always going to be out there. It would be amazing if we could swing that somehow. And then kind of those scattershot things. They love the academic rigor, but just that reminder to raise the bar for COVID, continue to challenge them. Work ethic, we've lost a little bit, so encouraging them to get that work ethic back. COVID stressors as far as systems of support, not exactly with transitions, but figuring out a way to support the families as well, because not only the kids were impacted from COVID, but that families as well. So finding some way to get that support and help out there for them as well. And then of course they did hit on some more security things, such as the fences, just discussion on closed campuses, whether that's a positive.
Thank you. Have any?
Thought that was great. I mean, really, anytime you can bring in that many community members and it's a good problem to have when we got to say, all right, we appreciate you telling us all the things that we're doing great. And it's good to hear that, but what are some things we can improve on? Which is a risky question to ask, but I thought they gave good insight. So.
Well, I think it's important that you take feedback, positive and negative, and we continue and make change. Not just take the information and then do nothing. I know with this equity committee, it's a continuation, so.
I think it's been a nice bonus getting the site councils back on board. Not fun, it's difficult and it's a challenge, but it's been getting back. We're meeting 3 times a year, fall, winter, spring, and then the winter when we meet. That's what we did, is get all 3 together. So it's been good keeping those lines of communication open with it.
Oh, let's see. If you get done with that. First reading, December 2024 updates. They are in your packet.
Much better, and they are
Smaller,
very small. I mean,
the only 2 tabs. Okay.
there's only three
Oh, yeah, you're
balls
good.
in it. First reading, so we'll go over main process highlighted. Very simple. This one will see nothing compared to the last one.
Hey, Grant.
Grant request on that last page, basically it's kind of a, hey, just letting you know that I applied for this grant and, so I need you to approve it. So,
Because I got
We
it.
got it, right?
I got
Yeah,
it.
happy birthday, we got it.
Attached, attached the stuff that's on there and this unfortunately is not it's not as an uncommon occurrence as we would like because just when you stumble upon the grant and it's due in a week, you don't have time to get to the board. So, gotta do it. So, anyway.
Okay, public comment.
Oh,
Spark is done.
I don't know.
Out. Public comment regarding agenda item. Okay, none. Hearing none. Okay, action items. 11.1 superintendent evaluation. Can we get a motion?
Are we just accepting it?
Yes, accepting.
All right,
What was presented.
I move that we accept the superintendent evaluation as presented.
Seconded.
Motioned and second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Did I do it right? Let's see, okay. 11.2, 2025, 2026 school calendar. Make a motion,
I make a motion that we accept the 2025-2026 school calendar as presented.
Second.
Okay, motion and second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. I can say all opposed because everyone said aye. Okay. 11.3, budget calendar. Make a motion to accept the budget calendar as presented.
Sure. I move that we approve the budget calendar as presented.
Second.
Motion and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Say nay. Motion carries. 11.4, November 2024 policy adoption.
Make a motion to adopt the November 24 policies.
Second.
Second.
Motion and second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion carries. 11.5, grant request. What?
Correct, yes.
Looking to see if my eyes make sense. Okay. Do we have a motion?
I make a motion to accept the Mariners equipment grant.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion carried. Okay, upcoming meeting input.
The calendar, like they're gonna be March 12th. March 12th will be our next meeting. At this point, the normal monthly meeting, normal time, we would second read those policies. Then there's only 3 of them, so it shouldn't take very long. Yeah, we'd be good to go on as well.
So, for the good of the order, do we have anything?
Just say thank you. Thanks for all you guys do. Again, it's worth, especially after going through that evening needs assessment thing. Thank you to the admin team for all the work that they do and put in. They doing a great job with their site councils. That was a big ask to get that back looking again, as well as a big ask to manage the after school program that we got going. So a lot of positives going on, and I think the team stepped up and very much appreciate the board and your guys' leadership in the district. So.
Any announcements?
I'm unable to make the blood drive tomorrow because of the sinus cold. So, the much coveted 9 a.m. spot is open. If someone wants to take that, just thought I'd let you know. You one up me there.
Okay, meeting adjourned. Thank you for that.